Hello, I'm Rebecca. I'm the Environmental Education Coordinator here at Calusa Nature Center and Planetarium in Fort Myers, Florida. And today, for Calusa Nature Moments, we're going to be talking about plants that don't have flowers.
All right. So last time we talked a little bit about plants that do have flowers, and today we're going to talk about some plants that don't. One of the most common non-flowering plants, or at least one of the most distinctive non-flowering plants you'll see here in Florida, are our big pine trees. Pine trees, as I'm sure you know, are identifiable by their pine needles way up at the top, and their sort of cracked and flaky bark. They produce what are called pine cones. You've seen those a lot. Now, pine cones come in two different varieties. First of all, we've got our male pine cone. Now, this pine cone is where the pine tree actually stores its pollen. Let's see if we can get some out. You've probably seen that pollen before. It's that bright yellow. It goes all over your cars. So people have some pollen allergies to it. I know I get real congested when it's pollen season. It looks like this one's all pollened out. But these male pine cones contain the pollen that gets blown around by the wind. Just sort of goes out, disperses by the wind until it hits up against a female pine cone. Once it hits that female pine cone, it'll go into it. So that female pine cone, which are the ones that you're a little bit more familiar with, can start to grow and develop seeds. Underneath each of these scales is going to be a seed developing. Let's see if we can pull one out. Let's see, there's some in there. You can see the wings of the seeds. Those wings help those seeds to fly. Let's pull one out and take a close look at it. All right, well, we got one. That little black dot at the end is a seed, not very well developed, but the majority of this object here is actually the wing. Not to flap and fly around, but to sort of corkscrew, spin like a propeller through the air. That helps the pine cone seeds disperse, spread out through the environment, so you don't have a bunch of pine cones, of new pine trees growing right next to the adult. So when this pine cone opens up and those seeds fall, they'll spiral through the air in kind of a low, long, slow spiral until they land far enough away from the parent tree that they're not going to be competing for resources. Some pine cones have interesting adaptations called being fire adapted, where they're actually sealed shut with a resin, a sticky sap, that only melts at certain high temperatures. So those pines require fire to grow. Our local pine trees are not fire adapted in the sense that they have serotinous cones where they need the fire to reproduce, but trees like the slash pine can actually survive really intense fires. There have been studies that show if as much as 90% of those needles get burned off in a fire, the tree will actually recover just fine. Just needs a little bit of needles up there, a little bit of ability to grow, and it'll recover just fine. Lots of plants in Southwest Florida are fire adapted, so that when it gets too overgrown, the environment lets itself get set on fire, usually through a lightning strike, burns out a lot of the underbrush, and leaves a lot of plants remaining that are able to grow in this newly burned area. Calusa Nature Center and Planetarium is a nonprofit organization that's been serving the communities of Southwest Florida for 50 years. Your donation to our emergency operating fund will enable us to provide for the care and keeping of our animals, such as Olivia, our red-shouldered hawk here, during the time that we are closed due to the coronavirus. We thank you for your support, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.